Alabama's entering the home stretch. So Jimmy and I want to talk about 3 players that really need to step up for Alabama to accomplish all its goals.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. You guys are the absolute best. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and I will talk about FanDuel in just a little bit. Right now, Jimmy, though, I want to talk about players that really Alabama's going to count on here down the stretch. Some of these, you can see them right there. Some of them may be a little bit of a surprise, some of them not a surprise, and some of you may be like, do we really need? Yeah, I think we do. And here's my reasoning. First of all, Nick Saban talked about a couple of these guys in his press conference on Monday. Number one, let's start with Kendrick Law. And I understand that some people may not be as high on him as I am. I'm super high on him. I know his stats don't necessarily jump off the page at you. I'm going to read these off. Did you know he's only got 7 catches all year? And at least one of those was a little pop pass this past weekend.
I'm surprised at 7. I would have guessed 4.
Wow. Okay. He's only got 79 yards. So it's not like he's a main target.
Right.
But I'm not even necessarily saying he needs to be dynamic in the passing game, although I would like for him to be. And I feel like this is the best way to get him involved is the pop pass, some kind of receiver screen, whatever. But I think in the return game, I was so anxious for him to have a really bust out run against LSU. And I thought a couple of times he was very close, like a tackle away from making it a house call. So that's what I'm talking about more when it comes to Kendrick Law. And really, if you wanted to put Isaiah Bond in this spot, I get it. Even though Isaiah Bond is sort of cheating on what we're trying to define step up your game as, because Bond's game's already been pretty up there. He's already had some long touchdown catches, et cetera. But Bond did a very, Bond had a sort of a ride outs kind of moment to me, where this past weekend he catches a little swing pass that was somewhat of a dangerous pass, but he comes back to the ball, he gets it, he catches it, and then he breaks the first tackle. I don't feel like our receivers have been breaking the first tackle as much recently, but he did, and I'm seeing it even more from a guy like Jermaine Burton. I feel like Bond that can set a tone, but I'm going to go with Kendrick Law just because we haven't seen as much of him yet, and that's what I'm defining this as.
Yeah, to me with Kendrick, it's not so much as like, hey, Kendrick, we need Kendrick to step up, so much as we need other people on offense to step up, and the other people on offense, being allowing Kendrick Law to become a playmaker. Like Jaylen, get the ball to K-Law. Tommy Reese, make sure the ball is going to K-Law. Nick Saban, make him a big part of things. Offensive line, give him a chance to make a play. Other wide receivers, make your block downfield, because Kendrick Law is such a big play machine. Luke just talked about Isaiah Bond breaking a tackle. Kendrick Law is built like a running back. He's the one that you want down the field, and defensive backs being sort of helpless to get him to the ground. He can be that sort of guy that he's just really hard for DBs to tackle because he's so physical. But then when you line him up at running back or in the H-back spot and you get a linebacker on him, he's going to run past those dudes. He's ridiculously fast for to be covered by a linebacker. So I think he can be one heck of a weapon, and he's fine. We have to step up around him. Milrow, get the ball to Kendrick. Tommy Reese, design it to get to Kendrick. Everybody block better so Kendrick can make plays. He's a touchdown waiting to happen every time he touches the ball, so he needs more touches.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I feel like if he gets like this weekend, if he gets a big return, or if he takes one of those pop passes to the house, I feel like it's going to break the dam. I really do. I feel like you got to break the seal on this thing. We need to get him in the end zone, let him know what it feels like. I think once you get in the end zone the first time, you're going to want to do it a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. And he is just the one big play away from becoming, I think it's so being overused, but by some, but the comp to Deebo Samuel to me is so accurate here. To me, he's so much like him. The Swiss Army knife, like, don't just call Kendrick a wide receiver. He's big enough and strong enough to even play the H-back position. He can certainly play running back, and he's more of a natural wide receiver than anything else. And frankly, had he played defense, who knows if he's not back there with Caleb Downs as the best safety duo in the country. I mean, I think there is no limit to Kendrick Law's talents. It's just a matter of making him a bigger part of things. And that's on Alabama's coaches and Milroe to make Kendrick Law a bigger part of things, because he's just too talented not to be a bigger part of things.
Is it sacrilegious when you started comparing him that my first comp was Tyrone Prothro? Was that sacrilegious?
I think, he's so much bigger. And by bigger, I mean taller. Tyrone was really well built for a shorter guy. Kendrick's more traditional, I think, NFL. But I sort of like that comp. I mean, Kendrick Law is super fast. I don't think people know how fast he is, but he's like one of the 3 or 4 fastest players on the whole team. And that's kind of amazing. It's kind of like how we talk about Milroe as one of the fastest guys on the team. It's true. But look how he's built. Kendrick's built like Milroe. I mean, I'm telling you, I've seen Kendrick Law warming up down the field just in his T-shirt for the game. He's built like Milroe. I mean, it's unreal. And he just needs to be a bigger part of things. A kid that's built like him, that runs a 4.4. And if I'm wrong about Jimmy, he doesn't run a 4.4. Okay. He runs a 4.3. I mean, that's how fast this dude is. And I think, again, it's a challenge for Tommy Rees down the stretch. Get Kendrick Law the ball, however we got to make it happen.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some more guys coming up here very shortly. I'm glad you mentioned Caleb Downs. I'm just going to throw out there really quickly. He's leading the team in tackles, and he's just been unbelievable. And boy, he's the best freshman defensive player in the country, if you ask me. So yeah, just unbelievable. Okay, Jimmy, we're going to tell everybody about PrizePicks. All right, now when we come back, we're going to tell everybody about Jam Miller some more. But right now, I need to tell you about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are easily the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. So easy. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. That's all you got to do. With basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, you can do LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus receptions. That's awesome. That means you got both TVs going. You're super engaged. It's so much fun. If you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, you can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each and every week. Go check out prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege or just /LockedOnCollege. I don't know which one is right. prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege, prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. This is so much fun. You will keep you engaged. You will absolutely love it. And for whatever reason, ESPN has decided to run an ad right in the middle of my ad. So take that, ESPN. Anyway, prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege, prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. You're going to love it. Jimmy Jam Miller. And this is how Jam Miller is now. ESPN has him listed as Jam Miller, not even Jamorian Miller anymore. It's just Jam Miller. That's what ESPN has. And I'm looking at his stats. How many, don't cheat. How many carries?
I'm not looking at anything.
How many carries?
How many carries does Jam Miller have this year? 27.
17.
Oh, wow. That's not enough.
And he got 4 of them this past week.
Yeah. And there was just 4 because I would have guessed like 8 because he was kind of a significant player in the game. Obviously, the ball he caught, the pass reception was his biggest play of the game. Jam just suffers from a few things. Number one, when they mess with the clock rules, everybody is running fewer plays. For whatever reason, Alabama's running significantly fewer plays. We used to run 70, 75 plays a game. Now, this year, we've been more like 55, 60 plays a game. So there's fewer snaps. And we got to throw it, and Milroe's got to run it. So then the rest of the plays go to the backs. And Jam, as much as we'd like to see him play, he shouldn't be playing ahead of Jace, in my opinion, not right now. I'm cool with him being the number 2 back, and he sort of was this past Saturday. But Jam just suffers from what a handful of others, including Kendrick Law, is there's just not enough balls to go around, not enough plays to go around. We want to see Jam get the ball more, but I want to see Justice get the ball when, he's a little banged up right now. I want to see Jason Roydell get the ball. I want to see 7 different wide receivers catch passes. I think the tight ends are a weapon, all 3 of them, between Oost and CJ Dupree and Amari Niblack. That's just a lot of guys that we want to get the ball to, right? So I don't think any of them other than maybe Jace get enough touches. But Jam is spectacular. I know he's probably frustrated over that carries number. He thought it would be a lot more. We're all frustrated, Jam, about that. But, man, don't go anywhere because it is so clear to me that he will be a significant player on the offense next year. And the good news is he's going to show up with a lot of tread on the tires. It's not like he's been worn down by game reps. I think he's immensely talented, and I think he's going to be a great player. He just needs to continue to work on the small stuff, catching the ball, picking up blitzes, and ball security. Those little things is what he needs to work on.
One of your cohorts, Travis Ryer, talks about how Jam Miller has actually been a fantastic teammate and has really showed out on special teams too. While he didn't get a carry against Tennessee, he was very good on special teams against Tennessee. The other thing is, I think he's been pretty good at blitz pickup.
Better lately.
He's getting better. He's getting better all the way across the board. And his catch against LSU, it was a nice look from Jaylen Miller. But the pass wasn't perfect, and Jam Miller made the catch. Everything wasn't clean. And Harold Perkins was just a fingernail away from tipping it if he didn't get a tiny piece of it. And Jam Miller adjusted, made the catch, made a huge gain. Those are the kind of things that increase your confidence. When you're out there and you're not playing much and you have to go out there and you feel like if I don't do this perfectly, then I'm going to the bench. Well, that's when you screw up because you're so worried about doing something right. Be in the moment and just be yourself. Guys like Jam Miller, guys like Kendrick Law, the next guy we're going to talk about, Jihad Campbell, these guys, they're so uber talented. Go out there and just be yourself. The problem is it's very difficult to do it until you get out there and get experience with it. So, it's sort of a catch-22, but he is getting so much better. I love what he's bringing to the table. And Nick Saban brought it up in his last press conference that Jace McClellan, been at Alabama a long time now, taking a lot of hits. And you're talking about tread on the tires. Look, it's not like Jace McClellan's worn down. At the same time, he's had his injury moments. And
he's got to be banged up as many carries. He's the one guy that we've used sufficiently.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Nick Saban alluded to the fact that Jace McClellan's a little banged up. I thought by Jam playing second the other night, he had sort of moved ahead of Roydell, and maybe so. But then they put Roydell in the game in the second half in particular, and Roydell was running like his hair was on fire. I thought that was as good as I've ever seen Roydell look this past Saturday. So, hey, look, I know we all have our favorite back, and we all I want to see this guy. I want to see this guy. Just rest assured knowing that when Alabama has a running back on the field, he's a good player. Yeah. Jace, Roydell, Jam, or when he gets healthy or Justice, all good players, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and, I'm kind of cool with Jam Miller being 2, even though Roydell has paid his dues, because Roydell, number 1, is a fantastic teammate. That's very obvious. And when he did come in there, he did play with his hair on fire. He played like a guy who's like, hey, I don't know if I got a pro career, but I'm about to end this career on a high note. And again, maybe Roydell can find a place in the NFL. Lesser running backs have, But I'm saying that when you got a guy like that who is a good teammate, who's not on the sidelines pouting, and he wants to come in and prove himself in his last season, I think that can be better. And a guy who's been in big moments, by the way, and been on the field, has a lot of experience. I think that can be better than having Jaylen Miller come in and feel like he has to be perfect to show everybody what he's capable of. Whereas he can come in second, and he's going to have the ability to do those things. So, yeah, I'm super excited about where everything is right now. All right. Boy, I left that PrizePicks thing up there the whole time, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I know Zach's probably watching, and Zach's mad at me. But, Zach, I'm sorry, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. I mess up all the time, bro. When we come back, we're going to talk about Jihaad Campbell. This is another guy that I think is going to have to pick it up. And I say pick it up very loosely. I don't mean it in the sense that he's not playing well. I mean it that for Alabama to win a championship, we got to hear more about him. But now I want to tell you about FanDuel, FanDuel.com/locked-on. You know I love FanDuel. I've shown you. I've got it right on my app. It's fantastic. I got PrizePicks on my app. I got all these things on my phone. I got them all there. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's 150 smacks if your team wins. And if you've been betting on Alabama, hey, there you go. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. Even Jimmy and Luke can use it. The app is just super easy. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads and player props and over-unders and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. All right, finally, we're going to talk a little Jihaad Campbell here. You want to talk about Jaylen Miller maybe getting in there because Jason McClellan's banged up, but Jason McClellan's not injured. Well, Deontay Lawson seems to be injured. Jihaad Campbell's going to need to really put his best foot forward. Again, he was awesome against Tennessee. I hate to say non-existent against LSU. I just didn't really recognize him out there.
Less existent.
Because on our big text thread that we have, I actually said, has Jihaad Campbell played? I mean, I hadn't even noticed. I hadn't heard his name one time. And again, when you're in the moment, sometimes you're like, where is he? And later on, I did notice him out there, obviously, on the rewatch. But, yeah, I want to see him be even more assertive. I think he can be. And I think, obviously, what he showed you against Tennessee, he's a dude. He just needs to be more dude-esque.
Yeah, I think with Jihad, I think he's going to be great. Not just a good player, but a great, great player. I think it will happen for him as soon as next season. I think right now we're in the flashing all his potential season. Last year was total learning. Let's remember Jihad, like a lot of kids built like him at the high school level, was basically a defensive end. I mean, this is a guy in high school that was just, hey, put him outside and he's going to rush the passer and he's just going to play downhill. And that's all he did, is just a downhill ball snapped and he goes forward and he's trying to sack the quarterback or maybe throw the running back for a loss. And he spent the entire game in the opponent's backfield. So he gets to Alabama, and we're not only telling him, hey, what you did in high school is going to be irrelevant to what you're doing here. Forget all that. We're going to play you an off-ball linebacker, which is complicated. It's not like, outside linebacker is actually a more simple position to learn. It's not simple, especially at a place at Alabama that has some complexity to it. But playing inside linebacker at Alabama has absolutely nothing to do with being a downhill pass rusher in high school. So Jihad had to spend all last year learning, and now this year he knows enough to play, and he's flashing all his potential. And I think it's all going to come together next year, and he may be the most dominating inside linebacker in all of college football next year. That's how good I think this guy is. I think he's one of the most gifted players on the entire football team. It's just a matter of knowing what to do all the time at a complicated position. Inside linebacker in the Alabama system is almost similar to playing quarterback on offense. You got to know where all the parts go. You get everybody else, you help line them up. Sometimes you're blitzing the quarterback. Sometimes you're playing the run. Sometimes you're spying the quarterback. Oftentimes you're in coverage, either man coverage with the tight end or a back, or just drifting into your zone of responsibility. So it's complicated. It takes a lot, but man, this guy was built to do it. Again, in the offseason, I rank the roster. It's one of my big things I do at BOL, and we talk about it here on Locked On Bama all the time. And we have so many good players coming back next year, Luke. I've already catch myself all the time looking forward to ranking next year's roster. And I can tell you this right now, spoiler alert, Jihad's going to be really high. You will not catch him in the early parts of the countdown at all. He will be very late. Top 10 is highly likely. And, probably not there with Caleb Downs just yet, but in the ballpark.
And to end this thing, I think you're right about Jihaad Campbell. Love him. Think he's going to be a star. Want to see something out of him this weekend. I can't wait to get to Kentucky now. I'm so excited to get to Kentucky. I was nervous about it. When LSU took the 28-21 lead this past weekend, I was like, man, should I cancel this Kentucky trip? But that's how fickle I am as a fan. But all right, I got to bring this up. This is apropos of nothing we've talked about. But you did bring up next year. And next year's schedule is disgustingly tough. And the SEC apparently is going to put out the conference dates in the beginning of December, which I'm super excited for. And I started thinking about this. Like, we know where Wisconsin is going to be the 17th, right. And they're South Florida and whoever else before that. Okay. So maybe Mercer. Somebody. And
Western Kentucky, I think.
Western Kentucky. Mercer's later, maybe. Is it Mercer?
Yeah, I think it's Western. I think it's Western Kentucky, then South Florida, then Wisconsin.
Yeah, right? Okay. Maybe. Regardless. All right. We know Auburn's going to be at the end of the year, right? We know Tennessee's going to be, middle of October. We know LSU is going to be – we assume we're going to do them after their bye week like we've always done. I doubt they change that. So then you got to start filling in the blanks about where the schedule is going to be. And we got Missouri at home, which is not going to be a give to me. They got Luther Burden coming back. I'm not sure if their quarterback's coming back or not.
He might. He's an interesting stay or go decision.
Okay. We have South Carolina. I know they've kind of stunk it up of late. They're going to have some dudes like Nicholas Harbor. They're going to have some players. So we're at Oklahoma, at Vanderbilt. Now, Vanderbilt's not the one thing. Georgia at home. What I'm trying to say is, where do we want these puzzle pieces to fall? Because, okay, so you travel to Wisconsin. I'm going to assume after the Wisconsin game, we're going to get a home game. I'd be willing to bet. Again, maybe I'm overthinking this. I'm willing to bet that is probably South Carolina or Missouri. That's my guess. Then I bet you we'd maybe travel to Oklahoma. Now, we could travel to Oklahoma. It may be that they want Alabama, Oklahoma to sort of open up the SEC thing. That may be what they want. And, boy, would that be tough. At Wisconsin, Wisconsin's not great. We know that, but they got Luke Fickell. They'll be better next year. If you opened up with like at Wisconsin, then at Oklahoma, or God forbid, at Wisconsin, home against Georgia. Next year's not going to be no joke, Jimmy. No joke.
It will be. Now, the other SEC teams and Big Ten, by the way, too, are just USC schedule is also crazy. But Alabama is very likely to play, in my opinion, 5 top 15 teams. 5 top 15 teams, meaning ranked in the top 15 at the time the game is played. I don't know, Luke, that's ever happened, ever, anywhere. Not at Alabama, anywhere. So this schedule is going to be really, really tough, and people are going to be frustrated with me. And, I think Alabama can be really, really good next year. But 10-2 looks like a ceiling to me. Like,
well, it gets you in the playoffs. It gets
10-2. Oh, with that schedule, you would assume so. But yeah, 10-2 will be yesteryear's 12-0.
But my point is, what you cross your fingers, people, trust me on this. What you don't want at Wisconsin, and then the opening SEC game is at Vanderbilt. Because if you do that, you take away the one give to me. At Vandy's a gimme. There is no other gimme in the SEC schedule for us. I mean, you want to say Missouri, whatever. I disagree because they got dudes coming back. That's going to be a tough game. You want to say South Carolina, they're going to have a loaded roster again. It's not going to be Alabama loaded. It's going to be tougher than you think. This isn't going to be like your uncle's South Carolina team. It's going to be tougher than you think. So what I'm saying is, I just don't want that first SEC game to be Vandy. I want Vandy to be in there somewhere sandwiched between some tough ones so that we can have a bit of a respite. And what I'm nervous about is something like, oh, okay, Alabama, here you go. Georgia at home, at Oklahoma, at Tennessee, off week, LSU at home. Don't do that to me, bro. Don't do that.
Not. And regardless of the order, you got to play them all. You got to play them all.
I know.
And regardless of the order, I hope, and it's a useless hope, frankly, but I hope everyone is ready to make this adjustment. Next year, college football changes forever. And the idea in the expanded SEC that you can go 12-0, I don't even know that it's possible anymore by adding these two national top 10 programs. I don't know that it's possible anymore. And then to have an SEC championship at the end, where you're playing one more top 5 team, just crazy. Well, it's just changing. It's like, hey, I hope y'all enjoy the NFL. And in the NFL, they play a 17-game schedule. And if your team finishes 12-5, they are awesome. You are a really, really good NFL team if you finish 12-5.
That is so true. That is so true.
In the SEC, it's about to be 10-2. Awesome. 9-3, you are really good. 8-4, you're fine. You ain't bad if you're 8-4 in this new SEC. So everyone's got to change their mindset. It's no more let's run the table. That's just highly unrealistic.
All right, buddy, that's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow, probably with our prediction show. And until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.